Hello students, today we are going to begin our The Merchant of Venice, Act 1, Scene 1. The first scene of the play is significant or important as it introduces the readers to Antonio and Bassanio directly, the major characters of the play, and to Portia indirectly, and the themes of the play. One of the main themes of the play, that is love and friendship, has been introduced in this scene. The scene opens with a melancholy mood of the protagonist of the play, the merchant of Venice of the play, Antonio, and it is very unusual beginning for a comedy. But students, you should know that William Shakespeare's most of the comedies introduce the protagonist in a sad mood. Usually in a comedy, such sadness is caused because the person is in love. But Antonio, the main character, the protagonist of the play, is neither in love nor he is worried because of his ships tossing on the ocean. Students, let's begin Act 1, Scene 1. I am just going to deal the hard words. Please you sit with your pencil and scribble down in the book or in your scribbling pad to write down the meanings and explanations. Antonio, and this scene has taken place on the scene takes place in a street in Venice. Students, let's begin. Antonio is the speaker. In sooth, I know not why I am so sad. Antonio speaks these lines to his friends Salarino and Salanio. Salarino and Salanio's names will differ in different books, students, so you don't bother. Now, these words come at the very beginning of the play when Antonio, along with Salarino and Salanio, are discussing the reasons of Antonio's sadness. Antonio says that he doesn't know why he is sad. His friends Salarino and Salanio suggest various possible reasons for his sorrowful mood. Now, students, underline soothe means truly, wearies means tiredness. Now, next is want wit, sadness of a dull person. Ado means trouble. Now listen to the explanation. I'm just explaining these important lines. Listen very carefully. Antonio said, in truth or truly, he did not know why he was sad. This feeling tired him. Wearies means tired. Now next, you say it tires you. I am still to learn how I caught it. Means here Antonio was actually trying to find out the reason of his melancholy and how he caught it, found it. I don't know what it consists of. It refers to melancholy and from where it has come. This sadness makes him such a dull fellow that he has much difficulty in recognizing himself. He has much trouble in recognizing himself. Salarino tries to suggest some possibilities or reasons for his sorrowful mood. He said, your mind is tossing on the ocean there where your Argus is with portly sail. So, this paragraph means that his mind is occupied. His means Antonio. Antonio's mind is occupied with thoughts of his ships on oceans. The large merchant ships, Argus is underlined, students, means large merchant ships are royal and they are compared to the noblemen, underlined signoids. Signoids means noblemen, who are a part of grand position. Here peasants of the sea refers to, peasants means the grand position or great spectacles. Burghers means the citizens. So underline petty traffickers. Petty means small, traffickers means merchant ships. So, students, please try to understand the explanation of this context. Salarino compares Antonio's ships sailing on the ocean with the great lords or the noblemen and wealthy citizens who look down upon the lesser man as they walk along the street. He further states that Antonio's ships are moving swiftly on the ocean with their canvas sails and look like grand spectacles or pageants of the ocean. The petty traffickers, that is the small boats, are like lesser men, and Antonio's argosies means the merchant ships like wealthy men look down upon them, and the small boats are as if showing respect. You can see the courtesy. Courtesy was means to bow down. If showing respect to the great commercial ships, and they bow down to show or to pay respect to them. So, students, in this context, the words argosies, burghers, signoids, traffickers have been used to highlight how majestic and full of wealth are Antonio's merchant ships which have gone out to sea. Hope these two paragraphs you have understood. Now, move on to Salanio. In this context, Salanio speaks that, believe me, sir, means he says that I assure you, sir, if I had risked, means if he had so much of wealth in trading by ship, his interest would always be fixed on his business chances. Salanio said that if his ventures would be trading by sea, then every object which would increase his misfortune would make him sad. To check, he would always be uprooting a blade of grass and holding it up to see whether the wind was blowing in a favorable direction or not. He would always be examining the maps minutely to find out the ports, harbors and channels to shelter his ships in case of need. Or you can say to drop his anchor or anchor drop in order to prevent the boat from moving. These were the consequences given by Salanio. Next comes Salarino. In this context, Salarino is trying to convince Antonio that he is sad because he is worried about the safety of his ships. He gives many instances to prove how everything around him would remind him of the dangers to his ships on the sea. Concluding, he says that if he can understand the dangers to his ships, he can also understand that Antonio's sadness is because of his worrying about the ships. Now, what were the examples or instances given by Salarino to prove that Antonio is sad because of his ships? First, students, you underline wind. Wind means here breath. Broth means soup, S-O-U-P. Ague means fever with shivering. Then shallows, the sloping sands on a sea coast. Flats, level tracts of sand covered with shallow water. Wealthy, richly laden. Andrew, a common name for a big ship, but a ship is always referred to as feminine. In this context, Salarino says that while cooling his soup, that is broth, the wind, his breath, reminds him of wind in sea, which makes him shiver in fever, that is ague, A-G-U-E. The sand in the sandy glass are. Sandy glass are is an apparatus, A-P-P-A-R-A-T-U-S, apparatus to tell the time, reminds him of hidden sand coast in which ships can get struck and be buried. The meaning of to kiss her burial means to be buried, B-U-R-I-E-D. When Salarino visits the church, that is holy edifice of stone, it reminds him of the dangerous rocks on which the ships can be hit and could scatter all the spices, referring to spice trade, all over the ocean water, looking as if the ocean is enwrapped in silk, means covered with silk. Students, underline some phrases. My gentle vessel side refers to my nice ship's sides. Enrobe the roaring waters means cover the big waves of the ocean. Next, welling her high top lower than her ribs to kiss her burial. This lines means if a ship is aground or get destroyed and has rolled over, its mast, M-A-S-T, would be lower than its sides, means ribs, and it would be like kissing the sand, in the sense that would be in burial. So, students, once again I am just reading this context, that whenever Salarino would be cooling his soup by blowing on it, he would feel or think of the wind at sea, which might cause havoc, damage to his ships. The sand running from one half of the hourglass into the other would remind him of the sandbanks and shallow waters, and he would imagine his rich ship Andrew grounded in sand, wrecked and turned over upon its side, with the top mast touching the sand on which it lay, trying to kiss the sands that enclosed her. Whenever he would visit church and see the holy building made of stones, he would be reminded of the hidden rocks in the sea, which, if only touched the sides of his good ship, would break into pieces and scatter all her spices, her refers to Andrew, in water, and throw out the rich silk cloth all over the water. So in one short moment, he might own so much, you can see the lines, and the next moment nothing, and wealth less. So he could imagine all this. If he could imagine all this, he could imagine the grief which such a disaster could cause him. So he said, means Salarino said, that Antonio is gloomy or sad or melancholy because he is thinking of his ships on the sea. Students, I hope up to this is sad to think upon his merchandise. The explanations are clear to you. Please go through it properly. Hope you have written all the word meanings and explanations, and I shall continue this scene 1 part 2 in my next video.